What's up, Tesla family? It's Ray J back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's happening with SPY, Tesla, and the broader markets. Just know that I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I'm saying as financial advice. Anyways, this morning, Tesla's on a bit of a decline. We're retesting this 398 to 395 area. And this is exactly what we predicted would happen yesterday. We did talk about how Tesla would likely decline in the morning. But then as time goes on, there is potential for Tesla to bounce if we hold some key levels, forming a possible inverse head and shoulders. We also have a very similar setup on SPY and the QQQ. SPY is declining this morning, but if we could hold a key level, we could be looking for a bounce if it holds. And then we also have an inverse head and shoulders like setup. So we're going to see if these setups pan out or not. Anyways, let's talk about some Tesla news and I'll break down what's happening with the charts. The first thing to remember is that I'm seeing lots of headlines about South America, as this is a very, very big untapped market in a lot of different ways. EVs are just a small slice of the amount of cars that are sold in just Peru alone, but the sales of hybrid and EVs hit a record 7,256 units. Once again, just in the first 9 months up until September, according to their records. And this is a big growing market. So there's been a lot of talk about how Chinese made EVs are continuing to ramp up their sales in South America. And this could be an important market for Tesla in the future because, once again, it's very much just untapped. So, once again, just something I'm seeing in the headlines, but we're going to see what happens as years progress. Besides that, when it comes to Tesla, Tesla is now requiring its suppliers to exclude China made components in the manufacturing of its cars in the USA. That's a fresh example of the fallout of a deepening geopolitical tension between the US and China. So that's a very important piece of news as well. They're trying to be more efficient with their overall production. And for the cars made in the USA, they want to exclude Chinese made components to avoid tariffs and also for other reasons. So that's very important. I also read online that Tesla is also trying to slowly become a little bit less reliant on China because of these geopolitical tensions that have been going on. So I think that was a little bit more negative news for Tesla so far. Besides that, there was also the big recall that was going on of its $8,000 home batteries following reports of failures and potential risks of fires. Tesla had to recall approximately 10,500 of their Powerwall 2 AC battery power systems. Not the best of news for the share price. That's part of why Tesla dropped last week alongside the overall market. So I think there's been some negative headlines, which is part of why Tesla is down, but we have not lost any key supports, and there is still potential to bounce if we hold some key supports, forming the inverse head and shoulders. For today, it's Monday, November 17th, 2025. At 8:30 a.m., we have the New York Empire State Manufacturing Index that just came out. This is basically above expectations. Then we have Williams, Jefferson, Kashkari, Waller, and Logan all giving speeches, so that may cause some volatility. As you know, the Fed is in a very critical place debating between if we're going to get cuts or not, or if the Fed needs to be more careful with the lack of data that's been coming out. And we're going to be listening to see what the Fed has to say about that. Just two more things. We basically have not really much for earnings today. This is the earnings calendar. But for Wednesday, we have the notorious Nvda announcing its earnings. So that's going to be the most important earnings for the week. And then we're going to see what happens with Nvidia's earnings. On top of that, there was some news that came out in case you're interested in playing like Google/Alphabet. Berkshire Hathaway has increased its stake in Google. It's now the 10th largest equity holding of the company, and they've bought, once again, a large amount of shares. So, anyways, let's focus on Tesla stock now, and we're going to break down the charts. Tesla has a possible left shoulder, head, and right shoulder. Now, if we lose 390, I think that's going to be a bad sign if we lose this support. If the 390 area fails us, of course, Tesla could be dumping and retesting the lows at 380 and then 374. But if you want to be bullish, you basically have this potential important level right here. Sorry, let me pull up my fib retracement chart, and what you'll see is that our golden pocket happens to be around 396 to 392. It's possible we do retest the golden pocket, that range down there. Then we're going to see if Tesla could attempt some kind of bounce or not. So, in my opinion, I think that it's possible we decline towards 395 to 392. We could be dipping just a little bit more, but I want to see Tesla bounce. I want to see Tesla reclaim 402. If we do that, I'm looking for the inverse head and shoulders to pan out for the 420 test, but we have to bounce near the mid 390s to get back above 402. If we do that, there could be a big amount of upside coming to Tesla stock. But if it's the opposite, and if Tesla fails and loses 390, we could be retesting this imbalance and then going back to the low 380s. Hopefully, we see the inverse head and shoulders like pattern pan out, and we see Tesla attempt some kind of rebound. We just try to bounce near these levels and we get back above 402. If so, we're looking for this to essentially pan out and retest 420. Looking at the 4-hour time frame, the 4 hours right here. The 4-hour does look a little bit more bullish, and we also have the inverse head and shoulders like setup, but we need to see a reversal. Okay, we need to see a reversal on the 4-hour in order for this to pan out. We're also near this trend line, so see this white trend line, which is acting as a support. We do like to bounce off this, so hopefully Tesla gets a bounce. We'll see if we hold some key levels or not, but overall, that's what I'm essentially eyeing this morning. Same thing with SPY. So SPY has a very similar setup. 668 is also where the golden pocket happens to be. We have a left shoulder, head, and possible right shoulder. Now, if we lose 668, we could actually turn bearish and start dipping to like 663. But I want to see us basically bounce near 668. If we could hold our golden pocket, we're looking for 673 as our resistance. So if we get back above 673, we need to basically bounce. Then I'm looking for 678 or above for the inverse head and shoulders. So we'll see if it pans out or not. So could we dip a little bit? Yes, but I want to see us bounce near 668 on SPY, then reclaim 673. If we do that, we're looking for a breakout, and this could be looking for a big bounce. But if we lose 668, we could be dipping a lot more, so be very careful. On the QQQ, we have a left shoulder, a head, and a right shoulder. If we lose basically 603, there's going to be a risk of us retesting the lows. But I want to see us basically bounce near 605 and then reclaim 610. If we get back above 610, I do anticipate a bounce for like 615 or so. So we will see if the QQQ gets bought back up. On the IWM, we have a very similar setup: left shoulder, head, and right shoulder, inverse head and shoulders. We'll see if this pans out or not. If we lose 235, we could be dumping lower, but if we hold this, we could be looking for a rebound to 238. Then we're going to see if this inverse head and shoulders ends up causing a bounce. On ES, we also have an inverse head and shoulders. Now, if we end up losing 67.20, we're looking for a dump back down. But if we hold support near that area, we're looking for a rebound to 67.50. And if we could get back above that, we're looking for a big bounce. So watch that very, very closely. We might dip a little bit to like 67.20. We'll see if we rebound or not. So keep that in mind. For NQ, we have support around 25,000. If we lose that, of course, it's going to be a bad sign. We could be dumping more. But if we hold 25,000, we could rebound for 25,200. Then we're looking for a big bounce off this inverse head and shoulders. So we'll see which way we end up going. Bitcoin has a double bottom as long as we don't lose 93,000 flats. We could be looking for a double bottom bounce back up to 95,000. So watch that very closely. Tesla also has the inverse head and shoulders, but I need to see us bounce around here. We could go as low as 392 to 395 at the lowest before we try to bounce. But I want to see us reclaim basically 403, at least 403, and then we could be looking for a bounce on Tesla, a big one, back up to 420. If we lose 390, of course, that's where the main support is, and then we could start failing if that fails us. So watch it very closely. Nvda also has an inverse head and shoulders like pattern. I don't want to see us lose 186. I want to see us bounce to reclaim 188. Could test 186, and if we bounce and get back above 188, and we're looking for a retest of the 190 area. Just a couple more tickers. Aapl is kind of like declining right here. We're going to see if we bounce near 286 or not. But if we end up losing 265, we could be looking for a dump. So watch and see if we get some kind of bounce. On Palantir, we also have an inverse head and shoulders like pattern. I want to see us bounce near 170 to 168 and reclaim 174. On AMD, we also have an inverse head and shoulders. If we end up losing 240, we're looking for a dump. If we reclaim 248, we're looking for a bounce. This could be declining towards like 240, and we'll see if we rebound. Coinbase also has support right here around this 278 area. If we lose that, we could be declining more. But hopefully we bounce, get back above 285 for the inverse head and shoulders. I'm seeing this pattern throughout the markets. Amazon's in the middle. As long as you don't lose 232, we need to bounce and reclaim 237. Meta also has an inverse head and shoulders. I need to see us hold 600. If we lose 600, it's a bad sign. If we hold it, we could try to bounce for 608. Google pumped with the Berkshire Hathaway news and it's dumping afterwards. We basically saw the inverse head and shoulders already pan out. So we're going to be looking for a test of 238. If that fails us, we could be dipping towards like 278 and we'll see what happens. Microsoft could also be dipping back down towards 505 and we'll see what happens as well. So that's going to be very key. And we're going to see what happens with the VIX. The VIX is trying to push higher, so give this the time it needs. Or is it about to reject back down to like the 20 area? We're in the middle right now. One concern I do have, though, for bulls is that, there's a possible inverse head and shoulders on the VIX. We're going to see if this pans out or not, or if this is just a trap and we kind of like pop a bit then reject. So we'll see about that. For now, we'll look at Tesla and SPY and just know that if we hold some key levels, Tesla could bounce back to the 400s. If we reclaim 403 especially, it's going to be a good sign. Tesla could start bouncing off this trend line back towards like 410, 415, 420. And then for SPY, we're watching to see if the inverse head and shoulders pans out. Hopefully, we could hold 668 on SPY and 603 on the QQQ to see some kind of bounce. With that being said, I thank you all for listening. Please have an awesome rest of your guys' days, and I'll be back very soon with another upload in just a couple of hours. So watch your key levels, and we'll see if Tesla could bounce. Thank you for listening, and peace out.